ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on SportsNetUSA.net. I am Corey Neyland, and alongside me and to your left on the top box is Mark Pavlovich, and on the ones and twos, the DJ for us is Ed Ford. And we're ecstatic to have this next guest on with us, the Cypress College Charger Athletic Director, Wes McCurtis. And we were talking earlier, Wes, about how like 5 years, every spring we see you once a week. So we're glad to have you on the air with us today. And it's just a joy. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here today. It is weird, so I'm adjusting to seeing you guys on camera instead of in person.
All right. And as usual, to start us off, Mark always gets the first question. So, Mark, where are we going tonight?
Well, let's just go straight to the point. I mean, some people, and the old adage in acting, sports, everything else, even in writing, for those who can perform, they're on the main stage. They're the vocal point. For those who can't, they either got a coach, be an SID, or maybe an athletic director. So I'm going to take this young man back in history because, Corey, maybe you found it, but I went to the Cal Lutheran pages looking for some historic sports history on the young man we had there as an athlete. I'm sorry, I didn't find any. Maybe you did, Mr. Nayland. So, Wes, I'm going to take you back. Former athlete that went in this direction. Give me a little background on what sports you were prolific at and how far did they carry you? Was it just high school? Did you play in the college years? Just so we have that background first before we delve into your current job and your close to past job.
Yeah, no, so I mean, going way back, growing up, I played almost every sport. I went to Paraclete High School out in Lancaster. By the time I got to high school, the main focus was definitely basketball for me. I played on the varsity team for 3 years, 3 of my 4 years. We got to our first, state championship tournament for I think it was the first time in like 20 years when I was there. I was, all CIF. I think I got AV Press, which is the newspaper out there, AV Press Player of the Year. And then I had, a couple opportunities to play at the college level, and I chose to go to Cal Lutheran, where I did play my freshman and sophomore year. But I ended up not really panning out the way that I thought it would. I was mostly a practice squad guy, and I played on they have JV teams over there, and the D3 rank. So I was playing for the JV squad out at Cal Lutheran, working two jobs, being a student. So after those first 2 years, I chose to give up basketball and focus on, working and pursuing my career. Um, and it ended up getting me here. So I think it worked out for me. But I enjoyed my time, as an athlete, both at the high school level, and at the collegiate level. And I'm just glad to be able to continue helping student athletes now in my current role, and in my previous role as SID at Cypress College.
So, working two jobs and playing basketball for your first 2 years, and what type of toll did that take on you your first couple years in college that's not normal for an everyday student?
Yeah, it took a huge toll on me. If I'm being honest, it was a big adjustment for me. I'm the first person in my family to even attend uh, college and get that degree. So I didn't really have a whole lot to fall back on as far as asking those questions, knowing what to expect when I got there. Um, but I needed to figure out a way to make it work. So like I said, I was going to JV, those JV practices where we had to be in the gym at dressed ready to go 5:30 a.m. And then we were done with practice at about 7:30, and then I was hitting a couple different classes. And then I was working as a marketing intern at the National Notary Association in the San Fernando Valley. So I was doing like maybe a 34 40-minute drive out to the San Fernando Valley to do that marketing internship. And then I might have a couple, another class or two that day. And then I had an on-campus job with the Cal Lutheran Annual Fund, where we were at night from, I think it was like 5:30 to 8:30. We were calling alumni and friends of the university, soliciting donations. So I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. By the time that I'd get back to my dorm, we were talking, it's already 9 p.m. and, I got to study, do homework, all those type of things. So it was difficult for me, academically, again, just, being there, trying to figure it out, and then having all those other additional responsibilities on top of, working, being a student athlete, and all those things, and also trying to balance, a social life, being a new college student. So I know, even though, again, my college career didn't pan out the way that I wanted it to, I know those struggles well. I know what it takes to be successful at the college level as a student athlete. I saw it every day. I saw the grind, and a lot of our, as you guys are both aware, a lot of our student athletes at the 2-year level are facing a lot of those same challenges that I was facing when in those first 2 years at Cal Lutheran, where they're working multiple jobs, having to make long drives or take the bus to school. So I think really in the long run, that experience, helped me again, get in this position I am, and it gives me that ability to relate really well to a lot of our student athletes.
And Mark, I got a follow up to that, Mark. How did you maintain that? And we'll ask a couple more questions later about the advisory boards that you're on now. But how did you maintain that level of success as a student?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, those first 2 years, I mean, my grades were good enough, but they really weren't where they needed to be, and that's part of the reason, after that sophomore year, I had to make a decision. I loved basketball. Again, even though it wasn't really going the way that I expected it to go when I enrolled at Cal Lutheran. I still loved competing every day, with those guys and again, some of those days I'm going to that JV practice at 5:30, and if I didn't have a class or I didn't have to go to work, then they're calling me up to the regular practice, to run scout team and those things. So there's some days where when I would have that extra time, now I'm doing two-a-days, basically. So like every day was a grind. I enjoyed it, but like I said, it got to the point where I knew that I wasn't, basketball wasn't going to be the thing, that propelled me financially or after college. I knew I wanted to keep that career in sports, but at that time, I just had to do what I had to do to be able to have gas money and do some of the things that I wanted to do as a college student. So again, if I have to go back and think about that time, I enjoyed it. I look back on it fondly, but it was extremely difficult, to kind of navigate all those things, at the same time, and that's why I had to make that decision to just give up basketball after my sophomore year.
Wes, so let's stick there because you deal with a lot of community college athletes. Corey and I have been around them. Most of them you talk to, if they're football players, they're going to the next level. They're going to play. If they're basketball players, oh, there's leagues all over the world, so I'll be able to play basketball. So who was there for you? You talk about your journey as if you did it on your own. Was there somebody there for you when you finally had to look in the mirror and say, hey, basketball's not my thing? And then what led you on that path to maybe find that road to keep you in athletics? Or was there somebody, a mentor that said, Wes, that's okay if you can't play, but there's other things you can do in sports? I mean, that's got to be a tough thing for a young man or a young woman.
Yeah, no, it was definitely tough, but I definitely wasn't, doing this on my own. My mom was extremely supportive during all this. She wasn't super far. She was back out in Lancaster at that time, and I was in Thousand Oaks, so she was helping me out, any way that she could, and helping me, help me navigate some of these things. But again, she never really had that experience as a college student. So, she would see, I would share with her some of my grades, and, she was coming at me, like, what's going on, type of deal. And, because she was used to the grades I was getting in high school and all the years leading up to that, and trying to, uh, explained to her that, I'm balancing all these different things, and she ended up being, really understanding about it. But the thing for her, she thought, that basketball was the driving force for me to keep me, going academically and keep me in school. I think one of her fears was, if I were to ask her, that she feared if I stopped playing basketball, that I was just going to stop going to school, and kind of just uh, fall out after that. But at that time, I knew that I didn't want to, move back home and have to try to, find, some other type of employment. I knew I was driven enough at that point, where I was able to convince her, like, hey, this is the best decision for me. And she was supportive with that. And from there, really, everything kind of took off from there. My grades got a lot better. I was able to get a lot more experience professionally doing those internships, create more relationships with other students and organizations on campus. And then along with her, my I call him my godfather, but Richard, he helped me a lot through this process. He was my dad's best friend growing up. He's always been kind of the one who supported me in all athletics, really. Um, and so he was another person that I would turn to help make a lot of these decisions that I was making, and he kind of understood what I was going through as well. So I definitely had people to turn to, people to talk to about these things. But again, the difficult part for me is I didn't really have that mentor, someone in my family or really in my life at all who had gone through that experience of being both a college student and a student athlete at that level. So it was one of those things where I had to make that choice ultimately on my own, and they just supported it.
And I got a real serious question for you before we move on to the mentoring aspect, because that's another aspect we want to get to. Who'd you pat in your
Yeah.
game after when you balled?
Oh man, I was all about Allen Iverson, man. When I was a kid, all about Allen Iverson. When I was a kid, there's videos of me, with the finger bands and the arm bands and the leg band, like I was AI. And I'm someone, you guys have
Uh-huh.
seen me. I'm not that big of a guy.
Uh,
But again, it's one of those things. I consider my college career, because again, I went in with expectations. I consider it, a failure on my part, my college career as an athlete. But I had a really successful athletic career in high school. I ended up breaking our school record for points. I think I still have that. So I modeled my game a lot after Allen Iverson, where I was a small guard, but I could get to the basket. I could shoot it. And I mostly played, the two guard position, where we had a 6'1" point guard and then a 5'8" shooting guard type of deal. So definitely that was the dude who I modeled my game after when I played.
all right,
That's
Mark.
okay,
Before you have,
Wes. That's no. I was just going to let Wes know. That's okay, Wes. It's much better than Corey because he's modeled his game after Charles Barkley's body now. So that's the way he played. That's the way he
Oh
played
man,
basketball.
don't let him
Just
disrespect
wanted
me
to
like
let
that,
Wes
Corey.
know. Yeah.
that's okay. I need the break on a rebound, and I roll through everybody. Of course, I'm not dunking on anyone anymore, so that's okay. That's another story far back. And before I let Mark ask this next question, what was more comfortable, the questions or the answers? The
Ooh,
shoes wise, yeah.
yeah. The questions for sure. Those are still. It's between those and the KD 4s that are my favorite basketball shoes of all time. The questions, the white and red ones, match our jersey
Hmm.
with the name on it and everything. I probably went through like 3 or 4 pairs of those before I decided to switch up the shoes.
All right, Mark, you got to get you a pair. Uh, so So out of Cal Lutheran, you majored in business
Yeah,
and you got your master's
yep,
in sports management. Why? Well,
yep.
we know why you got your sports management. Why business to begin with?
Um, Again, this it kind of takes me back to my high school days again, where my mom, she was always pushing me, telling me that college is something that, well, my mom and Richard, both pushing me, college is something that you need to do, you need to take it seriously, and you need to figure out kind of that avenue that you're going to take. And I did one. I only did one in-person college visit when I was in high school, and Richard took me to Cal State Long Beach, and that was the
Okay.
school that I was if I wasn't going to play, that was the school that I was set on going to. We met with the director of the sport management program, and we sat down. We had a good conversation with I believe it was Steve Buchan at that time, and he kind of broke it down for us what the avenues were out of that program. But he told me it was only a master's program, that they didn't have anything for undergraduates. So I kind of talked that through with them, like, hey, um, what's the my best in? What's the best major for me if this is something that I really wanted to do at that time? Coming out of high school, I was split between pursuing a career as an athletic director or as a sports agent. That was until I figured out all that goes into being a sports agent these days. But so he told me business was the route. And I think I kind of had a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit, even as a high school student. Me and a couple of my friends, we started a little clothing company where we were selling shirts and stuff online, and that was just something that I thought was really cool. We set up our own LLC, did the whole thing legit, and I thought that was something that I was good at, and something that I could build upon those skills that I kind of already had in business and marketing. And so I just kind of parlayed that into athletics, and that's really how it worked out.
Wes, I find it interesting because, of course, as we see, he went to Cal State University, Long Beach. Uh,
Yeah.
the thing I find very interesting, though, because I was wondering if you were going to bring it up. I'm a retired talent agent, and I figured, okay, business, sports, sports management, you were going to go into be an agent. So what deterred you from going that direction? Because I mean, you're young enough at a time, the rules hadn't been magnified as they are today. I mean, back in the old days, you didn't have to have a graduate degree to be an agent. You were still allowed 7% in every various field that an athlete would be in that you could make money on, not 7% overall as it is today. But what changed your mind? Because you said two specific things right there, either an athletic
Yeah.
director or a sports agent, which to me are different as it really is. It's black and
Yeah.
white. It's academia versus making a heck of a lot of money and dealing with
Yep.
a career that is as competitive as sports is. So what drove you the
Yeah.
one direction and away from the other?
Well, again, that was what I was pursuing when I was coming out of high school. But once I did that research in college, and again saw the type of jobs that were out there for the type of qualifications they were looking for, to get in at a sports agency, and really, again, after having that experience, as a student athlete at Cal Lutheran, that was something that drove me, I think, because I wanted to kind of build on. There was a lot of great things about being an athlete at Cal Lutheran, a smaller D3. But I think there was also a lot of things that I saw areas for improvement. And that's something that, kind of got my mind going on. It would be great to, be in that position to, create my own sort of, team in athletics, and really start building something special as far as an athletics program, and providing resources that are necessary for students. Again, I was trying to balance that tough schedule, and Cal Lutheran had some of those resources available there, that ultimately helped me get through. But I thought I thought that was something that would be interesting to implement on my own, and go somewhere, and be able to do that. And then again, once I got into the sport management program at Long Beach, Cal State University Long Beach, um, we had to do internship hours. And going in, when I'm thinking, I want to be an athletic director, obviously, I'm thinking, I want to be an AD at, a big time school, right? I mean, I feel like
Right.
that's what everyone goes in thinking. And when I got the internship with the sports information director at the time, Stephanie Sampson at Cypress College, I didn't really know what to expect when I got in there. But I really fell in love with the 2 year level. I love, the relationships the direct relationships you're able to build with student athletes. Um, kind of, you don't get pigeonholed into like one particular role or job. You get a more broader sense of how the athletic department and the college as a whole operates and runs. And you get to, figure some things out as far as, again, providing those resources, and building programs, that type of deal. And I really just fell in love with the 2 year level, and I knew that it was the perfect fit for me. And that's really why I decided, when I was SID, I had opportunities to go to some 4 year schools. But I loved this level so much that I just decided that, that wouldn't really be the right fit for me. This is where I wanted to be. And this is kind of where I see my career. I saw it progressing, and I see it, continuing to be at this level for a long time.
And we get that answer so much from community college educators and administration that we wanted to go to the 4 year level or we wanted to go to the pro level, but our home was at the community college level because it seems you're truly doing so much work and so much good for student athletes that you just can't leave. And it would have been hard for you maybe because you're one of the best, well, before you were one of the best SIDs in the state of California. You got the top award in 2019. They call it the Brass Award, correct? And
Yeah, brass top.
what was that like to show your accomplishments? Because there's a list that we want to go over with you.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, um, it was one of the best accomplishments of my life, I think, and definitely of my career for sure. I think that one is, as far as individual accomplishments, that one's at the top. You know, again, as someone who was an athlete and someone who, I mean, I'm really competitive, in everything it is that I do. And again, people ask me, what my goal is now as a current AD, and I always tell them, my goal is just to be the best at what it is that I'm doing. So to get that recognition in my previous role, as an SID, again, I hadn't been around for as long as a lot of these other SIDs in the state. I kind of just, I started out as an unpaid intern at Cypress. 2 months later, Stephanie Sampson gets a great job at LAX in their communications department, which she's still at. I take over as an hourly. Then I have to interview basically for my own job that I've had for a year. I get that. Then a year later, the OEC wants me to take over, the conference as their webmaster, and next thing you know, I'm the president-elect of the, Sports Information Association, and then, um, you know, then I just got, that the culminating award, really, like you said, for, the top SIDs in the state of California in 2 year athletics, and getting that brass top award, and having my mom and my stepdad James there, to see that, it was definitely special for sure. Something I'll never forget.
So,
And
Wes, what I've got to add. Oh, sorry, Corey. I thought you were done, but
go ahead,
Wes
Mark.
is talking about the beginning of his career, and Wes, you had been an athlete. You had gone to a good D3 school as an athlete. So, in those first years when you come in as an SID, what attitude as an athlete did you bring to the SID position? So if I come to the SID position, I may look at things as an athlete compared to as an administrator. What were those first few months, days, years like as an SID? And was it that attitude? I'm a former athlete. Athletes should have. Did that overwhelm you, or did you sort of have to back off and not be so much as an athlete, but more of a, should I say, administrator in your first couple of years as an SID? I mean, how did that work for you when you first walked in being a former athlete?
I definitely didn't have the mindset of an administrator of an administrator when I first came in. I definitely had that mindset still, of a student athlete, and again, as someone who is competitive, I wanted to prove myself, early on. I wanted to earn the respect not only of all the student athletes on campus, but all of our coaches. Coming in, they see me, they know I'm a grad student, a young guy, and they may be looking at me like, how is this kid, writing stories about all these sports? Does he really, know what he's talking about? So I really, went out of my way to create really strong relationships with all of our, head coaches, all of our assistant coaches. And I, again, I got involved in a lot of things within the athletic department that were kind of outside of my responsibility, even as an SID. I helped, our men's basketball coach create the student athlete advisory committee at Cypress College about, 3 or 4 years ago. Something that, a lot of SIDs aren't really involved in, but it's something where I wanted to establish myself as a leader, not really as an administrator per se, but someone that student athletes could trust, someone that student athletes and coaches could come to. Just if whether it was a serious conversation or someone, they just want to sit down and, talk about, the NBA or NFL or whatever. That's really how I attacked it. And I was someone, again, I definitely had that athlete mentality where I looked at, what we were offering at Cypress College, both on our website, our social media accounts, in the stories, all those type of things. And a lot of times, um, people get tied into, promoting the brand or promoting, the coach's success or the program success. Something that I really focused on was focusing in on, the student athletes. Our social media, if you look at it even today, with our new SID Brett Franchino, I've kind of passed that mindset along to him, I think, where all of our stuff is super student athlete focused. We highlight coaches, we highlight, championships, we highlight those things. But all of our marketing, all of our, PR efforts, all those things are focused on, student success, both academically, and athletically for our student athletes. And that's something that I think really, got us going, helped build, our following on social media, helped uh, legitimize what we're doing in athletics, both on our own campus in the Orange Empire Conference and just, throughout the 3C2A. As you guys know, we have some really successful programs, and it really takes just somebody to keep getting those things, promoting those things, getting them out there, and making sure that people see it. And that's something that I took, really seriously, and something that I put in a lot of time, and a lot of effort to get that going. So that was really my mindset coming in. And even just to add to that, coming in as a former athlete, and even still to this day as the athletic director, I go out to practices sometimes. I'll lay down bunts at Pickler's practice on the softball field, and try to beat the throw to first. I play I go to women's basketball and I run scout team. I go to, men's basketball. They have a tradition where, they play coaches versus red shirts before every home game. So I'll run in those games. I gotta let everybody know that, I'm not just an administrator now. I could still go out there, I could run around a little bit.
So we'll see. You're young enough to do that. There's one of us who can still do that, and it's not the two guys up at top. So,
Yeah.
and so
Wait a minute,
Sportsnet
I can
USA
run.
for
It's
office.
called a trip.
Sportsnet SportsNetUSA.net has had a good relationship with Cypress College over the years, but it sounds like
Yeah.
it's no coincidence that when you got to Cypress, that we've done more each and every year, whether it's broadcast, whether it's these interviews, whether it's just becoming part of the program. It seems like it's not a coincidence because of you and your social savvy. I'm not too far off, am I?
I mean, I don't want to take all the credit on for myself. I mean, we got a lot of great staff, and a great administrator, a great dean of kinesiology athletics in Rick Rams. I had a great predecessor in Bill Pinkham, as you guys know. I think it was really I think really the change that you're seeing right now, or when I came in is just kind of the setup of our department. Bill Pinkham, he was an athletic director, but he was also an assistant baseball coach, a faculty member. So he's balancing a lot of different things on his plate, not really being able to focus on things, like broadcasting our games or doing interviews like this or the social media or that type of stuff. Our dean of kinesiology and athletics is also the dean of student support services on campus. So he's overseeing two different divisions. So it was really, they were doing all the things that we needed to do to, as far as eligibility and being able to compete. And I think, when they brought me in as an SID, I was kind of able to take all those things that, they may not be able to focus on as much because, they're spread thin doing all these other things. And so I kind of took that responsibility upon myself, when I see, some of these other schools, getting, their games streamed and, they have these huge followings on social media. I was like, this is how I'm going to add value to Cypress College, our athletics department, and, really better the student athlete experience overall. Our student athletes love when you guys come out and broadcast games. The parents love it. They love when they get to, sit down with you guys after the game and get interviewed. They love seeing videos, pictures of themselves on social media for, them having a great game that day or winning Charger of the Week. Some of those recognitions, and I just think it really goes a long way. And some people may think that those things aren't as important, but I would argue that, they're just as important, if not more important in some cases, when you start talking about things like, again, recruiting, all those things tie into that. And not a lot of coaches are of that mindset. I think it's starting to get a little more, it's progressing towards that way now. But, I could sit down with Brad Pickler and tell him, this is what we need to do on social media. We got to post this video. And he's going to look at me like, well, what am I going to do? Wes, you got it. Brad's not going to do any of that stuff. So yeah, no, I really just took that upon myself, and I appreciate you guys, saying that and kind of that partnership that we've had where, I think, I would say on behalf of Cypress College, we've been good to you guys and you guys have been great to us. So it's great having those relationships, and I have, other relationships, with, local businesses in Cypress and, a couple other, media outlets out there, but, kind of like we were talking about before here, we got to keep getting more coverage for community college athletics. So I love what you guys are doing.
And Mark, one
Corey,
more question. One more before we get to that, because I wanted to go back to the advisory committee. I wanted to go back to the advisory committee. Oh, okay. Before we move on, because Mark's going to take us into the athletic director portion. So back to the advisory committee that you helped start. And before we get to the other programs, explain what that does specifically.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure if you guys aren't familiar, most of the four-year universities, they have student athlete advisory committees, and they have it, at the college level, they have it at the conference level, and then they have it at the NCAA or NAIA level as well, where basically it's a group of student athlete leaders who help give the athletes a voice. Every administrators, coaches, organizations like the 3C2A, the Orange Empire Conference. You have all these entities, making decisions on behalf of the betterment of, student athletes. But a lot of the times we don't actually get the opinion of what the student athletes are thinking or what they prefer. And so I thought, starting the Student Athlete Advisory Committee at Cypress, again, me, along with our men's basketball coach, Jerome Hadif, we have two representatives from each of our 14 programs. We actually just had a meeting, our second meeting of the year this morning. And, we have we just get involved in all areas of the campus and in the community. So again, I kind of bring things to the Student Athlete Advisory Committee as leaders for their teams, and they go and report back to their teams on some updates on what's going on with facilities, or one of the things that they brought up this morning is Cypress, they just redid their college website, and they didn't like the placement of athletics on the college website. So then me and our SAC president can reach out to campus communications on behalf of all of our student athletes and ask, hey, this is what the student athletes are saying. This is what they would like to see. Can we do something about it? And it's even just little things like that, where again, the student athletes get to grow some of those leadership skills off the field or off the court, and get to have a say in what's going on both on campus. And I know the Orange Empire Conference is having talks right now of creating a student athlete advisory committee for the Orange Empire Conference, where each school would have a rep. And this is also a conversation going on at the state level with the 3C2A of kind of mimicking that NCAA model. So luckily at Cypress, we've kind of been, building up and legitimizing our student athlete advisory committee over the past few years. And it's really been a great resource, both for the athletes and for me to get some of that feedback, both when I was SID and especially now as an athletic director. And it also, with it allows them to, organize stuff to go out in the community. So SAC has, they volunteer for campus events like our veterans on campus. They have like a 5K every year. Our student athletes go out and volunteer and staff that event. We have Kinder Cabanata, where all the kindergartners from the area come to Cypress College. So we have an area set up for athletics, where we lower the hoop and the kids are out there dunking with the basketball players, or kicking the soccer ball with the soccer team. So just little things like that, where they go out in the community. Again, I always tell them, you want that support from the campus, you want that support from the community, people coming out to your games. The best way to do that is to be seen, to go out there, make an impact, and kind of earn that respect. It really goes both ways. Winning at our level is not going to be enough to get people to come out and support what you're doing. You need to be out there supporting what other people are doing. And again, this is going to be an expectation when you move on to the next level, if that's what you plan to do. And we try to prepare them in everything, in dealing with the media, in dealing with all these little nuances that come with being, a student athlete at the 4-year level now. It's our job as a department to prepare them for all those aspects of being a student athlete.
So you've gone from SID to the person who always says, hey, this is what we need to do for athletes, this is what we need to do for programs, to now the individual that is really management. And I mean, I have a lot of love for your college president. I sit on a committee with her, so I think she's a fantastic woman. She cares about students that are out there, Wes. But now you're the gentleman that has to say, when somebody walks in the office and says, your current SID, hey, Wes, we want sportsnetusa.net doing all our sports. And oh, by the way, their fees are X, Y, and Z for each individual game. And now you're that person that has to say to athletes and coaches and departments, guys, I'm really sorry, but my budget doesn't allow that. We've got to work out something.
Yep.
So for a rah-rah guy, has your mindset changed now in the new position somewhat? Does Wes have to protect Wes from himself and take a step backwards every once in a while and go, now I'm the AD. I have to look at the logical business choice on this?
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. I could answer that question, but it's a little difficult because again, I got hired as athletic director in August of 2019. We didn't hire our new SID until I believe it was January of 2020. So my first couple months as an athletic director, I was really, people were still expecting me to do my old job while also trying to learn this new one, which as you know, entails a lot. So that was something that I was trying to balance at the beginning. And then once, we were able to fill that position and be fully staffed, then I'm kind of getting into my groove as athletic director, figuring out, having some of those sit downs, having some of those meetings, figuring out, how our funding works, how our budget works, and a lot of those nuances. And then COVID hits, and and everything kind of shuts
Yeah.
down. So I mean, at this point, I have had, a number of those conversations when it comes to, the budget, the money. And right now, those conversations, as you might guess, are a little more difficult because of, the current position that everybody's in. When it comes to, we have needs at Cypress in our department, when it comes to staffing, when it comes to, facility upgrades, all those type of things that, our coaches want to see happen immediately. But I kind of have to be that guy to at least my way of approaching it is I at least want to lay out my plan for them. I don't want to just tell them, no, it's not going to happen or we don't have it. I'm going to tell them, I hear what you're saying, not going to happen right now. Here's why, but here's my plan to make it happen, or at least attempt to make it happen. I'm going to bring it back up at this point, and we're gonna try to move this thing forward. And really, a lot of the things that I learned as an SID, I think really still apply to being an athletic director now. I mean, there is obviously, the management aspect in dealing with coaches, staff, budget, all those type of things. But there's also still, I think, the creative side, of being the athletic director, where there's pools of money available on campus. You just got to know where to find them, how to justify that you need that money, and then be able to sell it and get some of that, funding for, athletics. And a perfect example for that at Cypress College when I first started, one of the first things that I was able to do, is secure some student equity funding, from the college for our student athlete success center. So I was able to secure a decent amount of money to be able to get laptops, printers for checkout for our student athletes. Uh, Create it's not a permanent area right now, but a semi-permanent area where they could go get those study hall hours, hire hourly staff, tutors to come in there, and help them, again, keep progressing academically, and have that space of their own as athletes where they don't need to go. They can still go to, the LRC and the library and study if they want, but they know that they have a place to call their own on campus where they can come, meet with their teammates, study, knock out some homework, whatever it is that they need to do. So, there's creative ways, like that, in being able to find some of that funding, some of those, and solve some of those issues. And then the other thing that I've been, working on coming in is, as with athletic directors, one of the big things for us is generating revenue. It's all about, it comes down to all of our coaches want these things to happen. Maybe the school's not going to fund it, but I, as an athletic director, or we, or you as a program or a coach, we can create, some sort of fundraising event, some sort of initiative, whether that's, selling ad space, in facilities, selling it online, getting sponsors, having golf tournaments, camps, all those sorts of things, that can help us, continue to grow as a department, and help show the college, like, hey, if you invest in us, you're not just giving us the money and then we're not gonna, do our part. You invest in us and we can become, not self-sufficient, but we can kind of help, purchase some of these needs or upgrades that we think that, we want or need, and just being able to fundraise the money and get some of those things, get some of those long-term items taken care of.
And with COVID going on right now, how are you maintaining and how is the vibe with the programs that you have? We have 14 programs,
Yep.
300 student athletes. How are you and the department maintaining?
Obviously there's some frustration with the student athletes, coaches, staff. It may not be this way at every college. There are some people who, don't feel comfortable going back and being on campus. I can tell you, confidently that that's not the case at Cypress College. I got coaches, calling me, texting me every day, well, this high school is back, this college is back, uh, this class is on campus, those sort of things, when are we going to get back? But I think, the morale is still pretty good. I'm someone who, we have regular meetings. I'm in constant contact with our coaches. I'm an open communicator, so I'm not hiding anything from them. What my plans are, whether they're going to like it or not. I'm letting them know what's going on, keeping them updated, and that same goes with our student athletes. I have nothing to hide. We've done a student athlete orientation where we've gone over all of the online resources that Cypress College has to offer. Where myself and our dean of kinesiology and athletics helped run that meeting. So, and obviously, a lot of the questions in the Zoom chat are obviously like, oh, hey, it's glad to hear I have all these resources, but when are we going to get back on campus? And I just keep reassuring them that we we have a plan in place. I've been working. I'm talking to our athletic trainer every day. He's been a huge resource for us, Scott Tucker, who's actually getting, he's 35 years in here at Cypress College, getting inducted into the athletic training or the CCC ATA Hall of Fame. It was supposed to be this year, but because of COVID, he's not going in until next year. So he's been a great resource, someone, again, that the coaches can turn to for reliable medical information, because, again, one of the most difficult parts about all this is I'm an athletic director. I'm not a medical professional.
Right.
I keep tabs on everything that's going on, all the updates. But at the end of the day, if our trainer, if our team physician say we're not ready to go, then we're not ready to go. And even though that's not the case now, this decision is made at a higher level than me. I'm going to have an opportunity here pretty soon to, present my case for Cypress Athletics to, hopefully get back on campus at some point here. And I'm just going to, lay out everything that I know, what our plan is for, doing this safely, and live with the result. And that's really all I can do at this point. The coaches know that, the athletes know that. So I'm doing everything I can on my end, but as you know, this thing changes from day to day. So it's really hard to predict what's going to happen in the next couple of days or the next week or month. So I don't know.
Okay.
So Corey, I need to get this in because we've only got about 10, 15 minutes left. So Wes, I'm going to make you the athletic director, and now you're going to have to deal with somebody. This question's sort of on behalf of Ed Ford and myself.
Yeah.
When I ask this question, I'm on Proposition J. I know what's being done over at Cypress College. Your baseball facility is getting upgraded. It's going to be
Yep.
beautiful. But as Ed
Yep.
Ford would say, because he's been out there many times, Brad Pickler deserves a shrine on the softball field. I know what they're going to do to the softball field because of Proposition
Yep.
J and nothing more.
Yep.
So I've got to ask you as an
Yep.
athletic director, who is going to do something and say, one of the most prolific coaches in the history of softball, our most prolific coach, maybe in all our sports here at Cypress, should get some sort of recognition with a field that represents the program that he built. And I'm going to drop that right in your lap because I know if Ed Ford was on the air with me right now, Ed's probably snicking right now saying, I knew Mark was going to try and get this in here. But I'm very serious, Wes. I mean, I think Brad deserves a great deal of love. And we've all been out there. Corey Neyland's going to start smiling in a second. The field's a nice field, but it doesn't represent a gentleman who's done what he's done in softball.
Yeah, and I mean, I really have no argument for what it is that you're saying. There's I mean, we need to give him what he deserves and what that program deserves. The one thing that I will say before I go into your question is, again, the baseball clubhouse and all these things happened while I was still the SID. The money was set aside and all those things, so I wasn't really involved in the decisions for that. But from what I know the reason that baseball is getting those renovations is because, um, you know, that structure that they had out there, had a lot of issues going on with the old clubhouse out at baseball in the actual structure, in some some issues that had to be addressed from a legal standpoint, which is the reason that they set that money aside, and we're able to get the renovations that are getting done over at the baseball field. But you're 100% right. I mean, we need to get something done out at the softball field. I think, even going further than that, there's a number of our facilities where I think, we can be doing a lot better. And honestly, that's going to be my main focus once all of this is over. Once all this COVID stuff passes, we're able to get back on campus, hopefully have our season, and kind of get back on track here. It was already one of my main focuses, coming in as the athletic director, that I knew was going to be a battle for pretty much my whole career here at Cypress. But you're right. We do need to do better out at that softball field specifically. With the championships that we've won, the program that Brad Pickler has built over his 30 plus years of coaching. And really there hasn't been a lot that has changed since I've been at Cypress College, and believe me, Brad's in my ear every day about it. Seeing he drives past and sees what's he doesn't live far from campus, so he drives past and sees what's going on, and he's calling me like, "Hey, Wes, what are we? I see them breaking concrete over there. It looks like they're doing a whole lot over there. When is that going to leak over to the softball field?" And Brad's been great, because I'll ask him, but he doesn't know, how much longer he's going to be coaching. But he's not making these requests selfishly. He's making these requests because, one, he knows that something needs to be done with that facility, but two, he wants to set up whoever it is that ends up, being his successor and taking over that program, to kind of continue that tradition that he's had here, which I think again is extremely important. Big shoes to fill, but I can't argue with anything that you said as far as what that facility needs and what it really deserves for the caliber of a program that we have. That is definitely going to be a discussion that I'm going to be having again for years to come, and I'm going to try to get it done as quickly as I can. As you know, we have a lot of construction going on at Cypress College right now. They got the new Veterans Resource Center just wrapped up. They're doing the new science, engineering, and math building, and then they're doing a new fine arts building right after that. So they're kind of maxed out on those major projects right now. But I'm going to make sure that softball field is at the top of our radar. Coming up next, especially in athletics, that's going to be one of the main focuses that I'm going to be pushing forward. So I'm doing the best I can, Ed. I know you and Mark, you want a state of the art setup for when you guys come out and start streaming our games. And hopefully I can get that done for you guys, for our student athletes, and for that, and for our legendary coach, Hall of Fame coach. So.
And we might have to go over tonight, guys, so just a couple minutes, because we got a few more things we want to discuss. But one is, for 20 years, we've been coming out to Cypress College, and I noticed one thing about your programs and resources. Your resources and your athletic programs, and how it coordinates with the physically challenged people that you have around with either the programs and the sports. Can you explain a little bit why that's so important, or appears so important at Cypress College? Because I think it's a wonderful thing, especially with my wife. I think it's a wonderful thing that happens in what Cypress College does.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that, again, our previous athletic director, Bill Pinkham, was in a unique spot where, he was the AD and he was also a faculty member, and so one of the main classes that he teaches is one of those adaptive PE classes. So that's how really he started to establish those relationships with those students, and they were really passionate about getting involved, back as far as 20, 30 years ago. And Pinkham, got them involved in our coaches, got them involved in a number of our programs. As far as, our PA, our former in Hall of Fame, Cypress Hall of Fame PA announcer, Wyatt Ware. And then we got, our longtime, 25 plus years scoreboard operator, George, and we have a lot of those staff members who do come from those adaptive PE classes, but really one of the things is they're just really passionate about what it is that they're doing. And Pink recognizes that passion. I recognize it, on a daily basis. George wants to come back just as much as all of our coaches and our student athletes to get back, to doing scoreboard at, he does our basketball games, he does softball, baseball, soccer. He's at Cypress College all the time. I love, having those relationships with, all of our staff and workers, and volunteers. And it's really great to see. They interact really well with our student athletes. It really helps, build that tight knit, kind of family community that we have, at Cypress College in the athletics department. And I hope to continue, having people like that, around for as long as I can, and helping, in any way that they can, build on our program. So, I'm glad that you brought that up, because they definitely deserve recognition, and that's why, a couple of those workers that I mentioned are in our athletics Hall of Fame, because, they've been around, committed to our programs, as volunteers for, 20, 30 years. They don't flake on us. They're at every game, super reliable, which is hard to find. And that's hard to find even when you're paying people. And a lot of these people that you're talking about are just volunteering their time because, they love Cypress College. They love, Cypress Athletics. And they have those great relationships with, our coaches. Our coaches really kind of set the tone for that, hook them up with all the gear, and make sure that, they get treated right. I make sure they get treated right, and that they have everything they need, to be successful at the job that they're doing.
Wes, I want to, because you keep using the term, and Corey will tell you, I love the term student athlete. So
Yeah.
you use the term all the time. Academic wise, what sort of safety nets have you established or have been established for those student athletes to get to that next level? Because so many of them, as you know, at the end of the day, you say, well, what's your GPA? It's 1.65. Where's the history class?
Yeah.
I didn't take it. And they don't get to go to, if we're talking softball, they don't get to go to Florida, Nebraska, Michigan to play softball. So what safety net programs do you, as the athletic director, if it's not there, will instill in the program, or what programs are there that you want to reinforce so that the student athlete can make it to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, I would say really the first important note for that is really just having those strong relationships with other people in the other areas of campus. When you're talking about, our financial aid director, A&R, the faculty, the deans, being able to rely on them, for some of that information that, I may need, or a student athlete, may reach out to me and need something. And I can rely on those relationships I have with other people on campus to help them out in any way that I can academically, or whether it's applying for graduation, getting getting into a certain class, whatever that may be. Just being able to help them out any way that I can. But really, the main thing that we've been able to implement since I started, which I touched on a little bit earlier, is the Student Athlete Success Center. Again, where the student athletes are able to come, have their own study space, have the ability to check out technology such as, laptops, be able to come in there, print out their papers, do all those things, and then come there and we have, tutors for specific subjects on certain days and times, and be able to get that extra help that they need. Our student athlete success mentors, the people who staff that facility, assist. They're assigned to certain sports, where they report to certain coaches, and they, help conduct things like, grade checks. They track, study hall hours. So a lot of the coaches that have bought into this Success Center mandate a certain amount of hours each week for their student athletes to log at the Success Center. And so we're able to track that and make recommendations, again, based on what we see in those grade checks. And then obviously you have that, the other aspect of it, I think, which is important, um, is really the information that we provide to the student athletes up front. So I've taken it upon myself to make, uh, you know, a really strong emphasis in those eligibility meetings, those orientations, our counseling, 140 class that all the student athletes have to take, where they get set up for their student ed plan. And I walk them through the process of, one, what the expectations are of them as, just a student at Cypress College, the expectations of them as a student athlete. And then, I go through some scenarios. If you're thinking about dropping a class or withdrawing from a class, here's some of the scenarios that we've had in the past where, student athletes have had issues, whether that's being eligible to compete here at Cypress, or if your goal is to transfer on to the next level, where we've had issues because, you know, you're just making decisions on your own without meeting with the counselor, without talking to your head coach, without meeting with Yvonne, our eligibility specialist. So we have done a lot better job, I think, laying out those scenarios and resources for them so they know where to go. I make sure that they meet, all the people that I'm talking about. So when they do need to speak with them, they feel comfortable going to them. And that goes for me as well. I want to be a person where they're not afraid to come talk to me, where they feel comfortable, regardless of the scenario, where they feel like they can come, ask me a question, and I'm not gonna, tell them, oh no, get out of here, I gotta leave. I'm gonna take the time to make sure that they get what they, get their questions answered, get the resources that they need. So that's really how we've been doing it so far. Like I said, I would like to continue to build on the Student Athlete Success Center that we have, get a more permanent space, and start tying it in more to other resources on campus where we have, tied into like career counseling, where we have guest speakers come in and start, engaging in some of those topics with our student athletes, where they start thinking about, life after sports, kind of like I had to, again, when I was a student athlete back at Cal Lutheran, and start bringing some of those resources to them, where they, in a space where they feel more comfortable, rather than, telling them to walk across campus over there and go talk to, you know, whoever that may be. I just think, again, for us to be the most effective with the population that we're serving, at Cypress College, that we have to be able to bring those resources to them. And really, you hear about guided pathways in that model. That's, I think, in athletics, we're kind of the you know we're kind of we've been doing that already. But I think, some of these extra resources and levels of protection that we're adding, to help them academically, are things that are only going to, continue to see those GPAs go up. And I actually just got the results from last year's GPAs, where we had as an athletic department, we had a 3.07 GPA. And that's something that I brought up, in the meeting with the Student Athlete Advisory Committee this morning, where, I mean, I've seen the GPAs for the last, 4 or 5 years. 3.07 is the highest. And I think that's because of the buy-in that we've had to this Student Athlete Success Center, where the student athletes aren't just accountable for being at practice. They're being held accountable to show up and put those study hours in, and they're supervised. So someone's sitting there making sure that they're not just, watching YouTube videos or whatever, that they're actually locked in doing something productive. And I think that's the best way that we're being able to help our student athletes academically at this point.
And I got
Congratulations.
two more things real quick. And just to on that, Wes, it sounds like you're very honest with the students, and that
Yeah.
honesty, and does being young help relating to the students for you?
Sorry, Mark. But but I my
I'll,
honest my
I'll go
honest
take a
an
nap.
my
Wake
honest
me
answer
when
to
you're
that
done, Wes.
is my honest answer is I don't know. If I'm being
Okay.
honest, I don't know if being young helps, or if maybe, I mean, it might even just depend on the student athlete. Some of them might look at me and just be like, "This is the guy who, is telling, you know Brad Pickler what to do or my coach what to do? Like how does that work? But no, I just try to establish myself not as someone. I don't come in. My leadership style isn't someone who's going to come in and start yelling at people or intimidate people. Really, I just think I don't. I think even as I age, hopefully, very gracefully, that kind of the relationships that I'm able to have with our student athletes won't change, and I don't think it will. I just think one of my strengths, just not even really professionally, but when I go in interviews and stuff, they always ask you what your strengths are. I just think one of my strengths is being able to relate to all different types of people. I grew up in Lancaster, which is a pretty diverse city, a lot of different personalities out there. I played a ton of different sports. Growing up in the desert, I raced BMX, I played football, I played basketball. So I'm around all different types of, people from all different walks of life. And then going to somewhere like Thousand Oaks, which is, a little bit of a culture shock, a lot different than Lancaster, definitely. But then, again, being on a campus where, we have people from, all over the world, all over the country, and being able to relate to people. And I really think, I'm not going to get all philosophical, but I think, it kind of ties into what we're just seeing in the world right now, where a lot of people, hear someone's opinion or thought, and just the first thing that they do is, they just attack the other person because, they may not agree or align with what it is that they're thinking. But to me, I'm going to respect any person's opinion, as long as they can give me an explanation for why it is that they think that way. And I'm going to be fine with them. I'm not going to hold any animosity. I'm not going to judge people. And I think that comes across in the conversations that I have with our coaches, with our administration, and especially with our student athletes, where it makes them, feel comfortable to me. They talking to me. They know, like you said, that I'm going to be honest with them. I'm not going to be brutally honest unless they ask me to be brutally honest. And I've had those situations, where guys think, because they knew that as an SID that I was doing G League games and stuff like that. Like, oh, can I play in the G League? I'm just like, no, man, you can't play in the G League. Not happening. So I have those honest conversations with student athletes, and I think it's really important because, again, like you talked about earlier, athletes come in with the expectation like D1 or bust. That's where I'm going. I'm going to the MLB or the NBA. And I just want to, again, be honest with them, lay out what all their options are, so that, I'm not gonna shove it down their throat that they're never going to be able to do that. I don't want to be that person either. But I give them the options that they have, directions that they can go, and then, if it comes to that point where they have that realization, then they can, look back on like, hey, so, okay, I'm not going to be a pro baseball player, or I'm not going to go, play at Vandy. Where am I going to go? Where's the best fit for me? Where is somewhere that, that I want to, finish off my either athletic career, academic career, or start in the workforce. And I think that's something that I've helped at least some of our student athletes. I know I've helped a couple of our interns make some of those decisions. So that's something that I take a lot of pride in, for sure. Definitely the best part of my job is, seeing people come in, improve, whether it's at, a staff member, an intern, or a student athlete, and move on to do something great. There's nothing better than seeing that.
Well, Wes, all I was going to say, it's refreshing meeting an educator like you, and that's what you are. I know you're an administrator, but you're an educator because you're out there with the student athletes all the time. And I personally, I just want to thank you. I mean, we've had a couple coaches that have been on here, another educator that Corey and I have looked, and even Ed Ford has said it. It's nice to be around people in education that you feel like maybe the youth of tomorrow actually have a chance. And you're one of those young men that really makes me feel sincerely that the people at the community college level, and if wherever you move on to as time goes by, that they will walk in and have somebody that's going to actually give them a chance, because you're doing one thing we wish everybody would do. You're taking time to listen to somebody else, their dreams, their aspirations, and their desires, and being honest enough to give them a straight opinion. And so I'm going to end my part here, Corey, with just saying, Wes, I really appreciate who you are as an individual, an educator, and somebody working at Cypress College. Cypress College has a fantastic young man who's got a bright future over there. And we wish you the best of luck. At least I do. Mr. Neyland, I can't ask for anything more from this young man unless that $25 an hour job is still out there.
Well, I've got nothing else. But Wes, anything you want to mention before we go?
Man, I mean, we've talked about we've covered pretty much all the bases today. I don't really know who's watching right now, but I'll just say, shout out to my mom if she's watching, and my grandma if she's watching. My mom is over at my grandma's house right now, out in Northridge. So, again, thank you for everything that you've done, and I just want to thank you guys again for having me, giving me this opportunity to talk, and answer some of these good questions, some difficult, Mark. But I've enjoyed this overall. I've never done anything like this before. Usually I'm on the other side of the camera as an SID or helping you guys set up what you need to do. So this has been really fun, and I appreciate everything you guys do for community college athletics, for Cypress College. I wish, again, if it were up to me and I had unlimited money, I would have you guys broadcast in every game if I could. And hopefully we're able to work something out here in the future once I can start raising some of that big money that I've been talking about. So I look forward to continuing my relationship with you guys, Sportsnet USA, and I really appreciate everything you guys do. So thank you.
It's our pleasure, Wes. And again, Mark, thank you very much for those tough questions. So Wes McCurtis, the athletic director of Cypress College, and the question, the answer, and that's the future in your bottom left-hand corner of college athletics, Wes McCurtis. For Ed Ford on the ones and twos, Mark Pavlovich. To your left, I am Corey Neyland, and once again, this is the show on SportsNetUSA.net.